Now, look, just to give you some idea as to how dishonest, absurd, heartless, unconstitutional and intellectually offensive all this border rubbish is, let's go to Queensland. And Annastacia Palaszczuk, I can only say one thing. I cannot believe what you and this Jeannette Young are up to. There's no point talking about it because words are inadequate. The staggering thing is the leader of the opposition up there supports the border closures. Dr Steven Cerutti is a doctor at Tweed Heads. He does a lot of work in New South Wales. Often it's anaesthetic work and he flies to Bathurst. I'll keep it short. He lives at Tugun in Queensland, which is near the Coolangatta airport. And so he flies back from Bathurst to Queensland when he has to do his work there. And it's very significant work. As I understand it, in the last few weeks, he saved 2 small children by resuscitation, whacking them on a helicopter and getting them to the appropriate care in Sydney. But when he returned to Brisbane Airport, he had the appropriate medical documentation and he would be waved through. However, he was then advised that the rules in Queensland about who can come in and who can't change every other day. So he thought he better apply for the appropriate exemption. And he explained himself in any amount of paperwork. And his general thrust of the application was that he was an essential health worker. Now, when you're saving babies, I think that's most probably true. He has a practice in Tugun and he works on the Gold Coast, both sides of the New South Wales and Queensland border, doing the same kind of work. Well, in the end, he got the advice from this Jeannette Young. The exemption was disallowed by this completely incompetent woman with no appropriate qualifications whatsoever. He was told he might be an essential health worker in New South Wales, but not in Queensland. So whacked into quarantine. He came out of quarantine at 1 minute after midnight last night and he's on the line with us. Dr Cerutti, good morning, good evening to you. I'm thinking morning. You're out of it all, eh? So you were given a formal letter saying your application to be classified as an essential health worker was disallowed and you were frog marched to a hotel to be quarantined.
Yes, Alan. Hi. I'd been sort of communicating with the Queensland Health for 4 weeks and I was optimistic, thought I might get a waiver, and there are so many inconsistencies with what's going on in Queensland, and the border obviously is just an arbitrary line. But as you said, the week before I came back to Queensland, I put 2 small children intubated, ventilated, and resuscitated in helicopters to go to Sydney Children's Hospitals, and I felt fairly confident that I would get a waiver, but in the end, it didn't come. So I had to submit myself to flying back to Queensland and being taken to an airport hotel because I'd prefer to fly back into Coolangatta, but the flights into Coolangatta have virtually stopped.
Steve, just tell me this. I believe you were frog marched, and as you were frog marched to the hotel, the police were telling people to get out of the way, as if you had Ebola or something.
Yes, well, they were saying there were army and police, and they were walking ahead, telling everybody to stand aside and make way for.
But hang on, it's the same Steve Cerutti who had no difficulty getting through Brisbane Airport in the past. And you were just, they understood what you were doing and away you went. But then you thought, oh, well, the rules are changing all the time. I'll do the right thing. I'll seek exemption. And they told you, did they not, that you might be an essential health worker in New South Wales, but not in Queensland. How does that make sense?
Well, it doesn't. I can't see any way that I can explain that. I've been coming ever since COVID started. All the elective work was stopped, so I found myself helping out at Bathurst. So I initially went down there for a 4-day stint and ended up staying for a month. And it was obvious that, they are very short on the sorts of skills that I have.
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you one question without revealing too much. Now, you're a doctor. I don't want you to dob anyone in. Are you aware or do you know people who have had good links with the Labor Party who have been allowed in and granted exemptions even though qualifications for exemption bear no relationship to the kind of qualifications you have? Are you aware of any such people?
Oh, yes, I think we all are aware. if you can build a boxing ring in Townsville, you can get through. There are all sorts of people getting exemptions.
Amazing.
All you have to do is I went through the health department, but if you go to the Premier's press secretary, you probably get a better hearing, I would think.
Anyway, you can have a good sleep at home tonight, Steve. It's good to talk to you. It just highlights how ridiculous all this is. Thank you for your time. I've got to tell you, I knew that bloke in another life. He was one hell of a rugby player, I've got to tell you. But we are all in a state of utter disbelief. The whole thing is dishonest. It's unconstitutional. It's based on politics, not health. And one can only hope that those who are the architects of all of this pay heavily. But unfortunately, there's no opposition in Queensland. They're on the same page as the Premier.